It's maybe contract, maybe some other stuff.
Maybe Carlos's dad and Juan Carlos had a different vision. Some people think maybe they couldn't get a contract together.
This shifts everything for Carlos.
According to Spanish journalist Jose Moran, Carlos Alcaraz's camp wanted to remove Juan Carlos Ferrero as coach a year ago, and they had already lined up a high-profile replacement, but the player himself was against it. The split came as a shock to the tennis community. Many believe that there had been signs of tension between Alcaraz's entourage and Ferrero, with the relationship reaching a point of no return in December, when the coach opted not to accept the terms of contract that was put on the table.
Cuando se acaba un año se tienen que ver ciertas cosas a nivel de contratos y bueno, pues como en todo contrato, digámoslo así, nuevo, ¿vale? De cara a lo que es el año siguiente, pues uno tira para un sitio y los otros pues tiran para el otro. Ha habido ciertos temas que no hemos estado de acuerdo las dos partes y que en este momento, pues en el punto que estamos en la relación, puede ser que se hubieran podido salvar si nos hubiéramos sentado a hablar, pero al final pues, no nos hemos sentado y hemos decidido no seguir.
In an interview, Ferrero admitted that both parties were pulling in different directions, as he stated that, as with all contracts, one side pulls in one direction and the other in another. Carlos's camp thinks about what's best for him, and he thinks about what's best for him. There were certain issues on which both parties disagreed, but according to the Spanish media, the decision to go their separate ways did not come out of the blue, as those close to Alcaraz wanted to get rid of Ferrero last year, as the player was suffering from mental burnout. 2024 was a very good year. He wins Roland Garros, he wins Wimbledon again, but then he has another stretch, especially after the Olympic Games, where Carlos Alcaraz loses his way a bit, just like in 2023. At the end of the season, Alcaraz looked completely overwhelmed. Former world number 4 Guy Forget also spoke about the possible reasons for Carlos Alcaraz's split with Juan Carlos Ferrero.
Je suis un petit peu étonné, je pense comme pas mal de passionnés de tennis, parce que la collaboration, elle a été plus que fructueuse. On sait tout ce que Carlos Alcaraz doit à Juan Carlos Ferrero, qu'il a pris depuis maintenant pas mal d'années. Et on ne sait pas véritablement le fond, je dirais pas du problème, mais ce qui s'est réellement passé entre eux, en plus à quelques semaines de la saison prochaine. Donc on peut imaginer qu'ils sont déjà en préparation. Voilà, c'est pas, j'imagine, le scénario idéal pour Carlos Alcaraz, mais quand une collaboration se passe si bien avec autant de bons résultats, on peut toujours se dire, est-ce que la suite sera meilleure? Ce sera difficile de faire mieux.
The first problems between these two started in Cincinnati. This is compounded by a very, very surprising defeat in the second round of the US Open. And that's where Alcaraz starts to say, in a way, that he wasn't mentally present, while from Juan Carlos's side, he was being pressured to, hey, we have to keep going. We're at the US Open. Alcaraz was showing signs of mental burnout, and those around Alcaraz here understand that all of this is mainly due to the way Ferrero wanted Alcaraz to manage his career, which isn't ideal for Carlos. He also made a sluggish start to 2025, losing in the quarterfinal of the Australian Open before finding form at the Rotterdam Open as he won his maiden indoor title. Moran added that the Alcaraz camp was ready to pull the trigger until the tennis star told them otherwise, as he also revealed they had their eye on former world number 1 Andy Murray as a replacement, but Novak Djokovic was ahead of the game as he had already managed to sign Murray as his coach. Moran said that they mentioned a name to him. At the end of last year, exactly a year ago, I repeat, what has happened now was going to happen. They intended to do it, but it was Carlos Alcaraz who stopped it. With this, I want to make it clear that the relationship between Carlos Alcaraz and Juan Carlos Ferrero has always been magnificent, tremendously good. There's no buts about it. A source close to Ferrero, speaking to Clay and RG Media, said, "What happened is very simple. The contract was annual. The 2025 contract ended at the end of November, and they waited until Saturday the 13th of this month to present a new one, and until Monday the 15th at the first hour to sign it. Juan Carlos did not accept it, and they did not want to make any changes." According to Clay, when that contract arrived, Ferrero had 2 days to read and sign it. He made a counteroffer that was not accepted. Another source told Clay and RG Media there were significant disagreements between Ferrero and Alcaraz's father about how to manage the player's career.
Maybe Carlos's dad and Juan Carlos had a different vision. Some people think maybe they couldn't get a contract together, but Juan Carlos Ferrero also said, hey, I would love to continue. Alcaraz himself had a really nice post saying, look, basically, thank you for everything. You've been like a mentor to me and a coach since I was barely a teenager, and they've done all these amazing things together. So it is shocking. It's a bummer.
This one kind of comes sudden, middle of December. You feel like there was a lot of rumors swirling over the last, 18 months, watching maybe Carlos's documentary, seeing maybe the dynamic with Juan Carlos and Carlos, obviously, just maybe clashing styles just a little bit, but their on-court performances, it was incredible. It's bar none. I mean, multiple slams the last couple of years, #1 in the world, has another opportunity to do something in the game of tennis in Australia by completing the career Grand Slam, as the youngest person to ever do it. So I just think it's weird timing. So I don't know what has happened recently, if they had something big that blew up between them and a disagreement, either financially or family-wise or on-court just in general. I didn't see this coming.
Alcaraz's father has been repeatedly pointed to as one of those responsible for ending the contractual relationship between Ferrero and Carlitos. The Spanish coach, a former Roland Garros champion, had worked with Carlos since he was a junior and always maintained a close relationship with the player. Reports also mentioned the entourage's desire to boost the Carlos Alcaraz Academy brand in Murcia, a project that conflicts with training sessions at the Ferrero Academy, located about 100 kilometers away. Recently, the EFE agency attempted to communicate with Carlos Alcaraz's father regarding Ferrero's comments. He offered a brief response. Everyone is free to have an opinion based on what they know. That was the only reply from the father of the 6-time major champion. Tony Nadal has offered a composed and insightful perspective on the separation between Carlos Alcaraz and Juan Carlos Ferrero. According to Nadal, any major move surrounding a player of Alcaraz's stature inevitably passes through the player himself. In other words, such a big change could not happen without the approval of someone who actually works with the coach and plays. While dismissing the idea that the decision was driven solely by world #1, Tony underlined that Carlos's voice carries natural weight within his team. Thus, the decision could not unfold without his green light. On the other hand, many reports suggest that Carlos and Juan Carlos wanted to continue. Nadal was careful to draw a distinction between influence and initiative, as the latter certainly did not come from the 6-time major champion. That would sound completely unreal following his career best season and the strongest possible connection with his long-term coach. Instead of pushing for change, the 22-year-old contributed to a broader evaluation process. Rather than embracing a dramatic rupture, Tony described the situation as a professional reassessment. However, the saga is now over, and Alcaraz focuses on his off-season training sessions, working with Flavio Caballi in Murcia. Tony's words add a layer of realism. At the very top of the game, collaboration is unavoidable, and responsibility is always shared. Was their decision good? We will find out in the upcoming months. It's impossible that Ferrero was fired without Alcaraz's intervention and approval, as nothing happens without his permission. To be clear, I do not think it was the player's decision. It's normal that Carlos gave his opinion. He is the player on the court. In his mind, the most important thing is that tennis runs smoothly, Tony Nadal said.